Most of us try to balance multiple things in our lives. Things like work, the relationship with your significant other, if you have children, parenting, personal health, and spirituality. So all of these represent major commitments, but the question you have to ask is, how can you excel in all of them? Now, some of us thrive at work, and we're unbelievable, and your boss may love you, you may run an unbelievable organization, but at the same time, maybe something else suffers, and in this case, maybe it's parenting. So the question then becomes, what is the solution to an acceptable life balance? And I think the first point is to realize that you can't have it all. If you're working 80 hours a week, if you're sleeping 8 hours a day, you're trying to be the model parent, a great spouse, and pursue spirituality, something has to give. And so that's where we get into the concept of moderation. What would be good enough in each area? That's really what we want to look at. And I think this process begins with managing your time. So in my case, I go to my children go to sleep about 2 hours before I do, and they wake up later than I do. So I have the flexibility of spending my evenings doing work, and that cuts the amount of time that I actually have to spend in the office. And in the morning when I wake up, again, it's before my children are up. I meditate, and that tackles the spirituality part of things. I plan my work day out. Again, that cuts some more time that I spend in the office, and I exercise. Now, in a perfect world, I'd love to exercise 2 hours a day, and I'd love to be able to hit the weights. I'd love to be able to hit cardio, and also at the same time do yoga. But I know that I can't do that because I don't have 2 hours every day. So what I do is I focus on an hour a day, and I simply alternate those 3 activities over the course of the week. Now, from the standpoint of children, I certainly can't spend as much time as I want with my children, and that really bothers me. So what I try to do is I try to spend as much quality time as I can with them, so that the time that I'm with them is quality time, because they remember that time. Okay? They remember when you were doing things specifically with them. And a good friend of mine recently got divorced, and now he's stuck seeing his children once every other weekend. So he gets them every other weekend. That's it. So when he's with them, he's focused entirely on his kids. Right? And all of it is quality time. And he said to me, he said, I wish I would have realized this before. And I wish I would have focused my attention on my children and on my ex-wife, because I probably would not be in this situation right now. In other words, I could have saved my marriage if I had only focused on what was critically important. I just didn't realize it at the time. So we talk about this concept of multitasking. It's something we hear a lot about. Multitasking, I'm here to tell you, is an absolute myth. You can only focus on one thing at a time. So what you want to do is put your attention and put your energy into what you're doing in that moment. And when it comes to, for me, for my wife, what I do is I make sure when I call her, when I'm on the road and I'm traveling, I focus on her. I'm not multitasking. I'm not thinking about other things. I'm thinking about her. And the other thing I do with my wife is I make sure we have a date night once a week, and we get away together alone on a vacation once a year. And the reality of it is that I tell my wife this all the time. The kids are going to grow up, go off to college, and develop lives of their own, and you and I are going to be together long term. And so we have to do everything we can to continue to cultivate that relationship, and we do. So when we talk about life balance, it's never perfect. There's always an extreme in one area. But if you really get focused on the extremes, other areas will suffer. So for this week, what I'd like you to do is look for ways to manage your time more effectively. That's the first step. And then once you do that, get present, spend quality time in each critical part or each life area you're working on. And the key to a successful life balance is 2 things: moderation and focus. So if you know somebody that can benefit from this message, as always, I just ask you to like it and pass it along. And in the meantime, just have a great, great week.